Welcome to this explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled we're diving into this today because we're looking at one of the most fascinating concepts in all of biology. Imagine for a second a master builder trying to construct an entire skyscraper using literally nothing but a standard hammer. It wouldn't work, right? You need drills, cranes, saws, wrenches, the whole shebang. Well, nature is the ultimate master builder. Today, we're going to see how multicellular organisms use highly specialized cells, just like a perfectly adapted toolkit, to create a biological division of labor. We'll be unpacking the key concepts for GCSE biology, figuring out exactly how and why cells change to do such incredible jobs. Okay, let's look at our roadmap for today. First up, the magic of differentiation. Then, we'll check out animal cells, the movers, followed by plant cells, the transporters. And finally, we'll wrap up with exactly why all this cell specialization actually matters.
All right, part one, the magic of differentiation.
So you gotta wonder, how does one basic, totally generic cell end up doing so many completely different jobs? I mean, think about it for a second. Every single one of us starts out incredibly simple. So how do we get this literal microscopic army of different tools, some carrying oxygen through your blood, some contracting your muscles, and others pulling water out of the dark soil? Well, the secret is cell differentiation. Simply put, this is just the process where a cell gets different subcellular structures so it can do a very specific job. And once it does that, boom, it becomes a specialized cell. It's kind of like a cell going off to trade school, right? It picks up specific structural adaptations. Maybe it grows a tail, or maybe it just packs itself full of energy-producing mitochondria, all because it needs those exact structures to do its job in the body. Now, this brings us to a massive, fundamental difference between the two main kingdoms of life. With animals, like us, differentiation mostly happens super early on in development. Once we're fully grown, cell division is pretty much just restricted to repairing or replacing damaged stuff. But plants are wild. Many plant tissues, like meristems, actually keep this magical ability to differentiate into any type of plant cell throughout their entire lives. Moving right along to part two, animal cells, the movers. Let's crack open the animal toolkit. We're looking at cells engineered for rapid communication, sensation, and movement. Take nerve cells, or neurons. They are literally your body's electrical cables. Their primary job is lightning-fast communication. To pull this off, they've got this super long axon to shoot electrical impulses over huge distances, and these branch dendrites to link up with other cells, creating a massive network. And that fatty myelin sheath, that wraps around the axon to insulate it and seriously speed up the impulse. Plus, at the very ends, the synapses are totally loaded with mitochondria. Why? Because they need a ton of energy to pump out transmitter chemicals, called neurotransmitters, over to the next cell. And to give you a sense of scale for just how extreme this cellular adaptation can be, 1 meter. No joke, that is the length of the longest axon in your body. It runs all the way from the base of your spine directly down to your big toe. That is one single cell stretched out to 3 feet long, just to make sure you have instantaneous communication. Nature is just an unbelievable engineer. Next up, muscle cells. These are the heavy-duty motor tools of the body. Their whole deal is just contracting and relaxing to make you move. Inside, they're packed with these special proteins called actin and myosin that actually slide over each other to make the cell contract. But sliding those proteins around takes serious work. So muscle cells are absolutely crammed with mitochondria to release energy through aerobic respiration. They even store up a carbohydrate called glycogen, which they can quickly break down for a sudden burst of energy right when the muscle needs it. And then we have the sperm cell. This little guy is basically a microscopic delivery vehicle. It's got a streamlined head and a long tail that whips from side to side so it can swim. To power that tail, the middle section is just packed with mitochondria. But the front is where the real magic happens. At the top of the head is the acrosome, which stores these powerful digestive enzymes because it has to literally break through the egg's tough outer layers for fertilization. And inside the head, it has a haploid nucleus. That just means it carries exactly half the normal number of chromosomes, perfectly prepping it to restore the full set once it fuses with the egg. All right, let's switch gears. Part 3, plant cells, the transporters. Going from animal movers to plant plumbing, let's start at the literal bottom with root hair cells. These are the plant's natural sponges, sitting right down there in the soil. They feature this long, thin projection that massively increases their surface area to soak up as much water as possible. They've also got super thin walls so the water doesn't have far to diffuse, and a large permanent vacuole to help suck that water in via osmosis. Oh, and they are full of mitochondria to power the active transport of mineral ions from the dirt. One thing you will not find in a root hair cell, though, is chloroplasts, because, well, there's no sunlight underground, so they just don't need them. Now, once the plant absorbs all that water and those minerals, they've got to be moved. Enter the xylem and the phloem. People mix these up all the time in biology, but putting them side by side makes it super clear. Xylem transports water and minerals up from the roots, and it's actually made of dead, hollow cells. Phloem, on the flip side, transports dissolved food and sugars all around the plant, and its cells are very much alive. Let's zoom in on the xylem vessels first. Their job is hauling water and minerals up to the shoots and leaves. As these cells develop, they get lined with this tough substance called lignin, which actually kills the cell. The dead cells then lose their end walls and all their internal contents, forming a continuous hollow pipeline. It is literally just reinforced biological plumbing. Those lignin spirals are incredibly important too because they strengthen the tube, so it doesn't just collapse under the intense pressure of the water shooting upward. Then you have the phloem cells. These guys transport the dissolved food, like sugars and amino acids from photosynthesis, wherever the plant needs it. These are living cells stacked end to end. The walls between them actually break down into these holy structures called sieve plates, letting the sugary sap just flow right on through. But here's the fascinating trade-off. To leave room for that food to flow freely, phloem cells lose almost all of their own subcellular structures. So they have to rely completely on neighboring companion cells, which are totally packed with mitochondria, just to provide the energy to keep them alive and actively transporting. And finally, part 4, why cell specialization matters. Okay, we've looked at all these tiny microscopic tools, but let's zoom out and tie this together into the big picture of a fully functioning organism. If we summarize this into a biological cheat sheet, the golden rule of biology absolutely holds true. Whether we're talking about a nerve cell with its insulated axon for fast signals, a muscle cell crammed with sliding proteins for moving, or a root hair cell reaching out to grab water, every single structural modification we've talked about exists for a specific reason. The cell changes its structure to perfectly execute its job. And the really crucial thing is how this all scales up. It all starts with step 1, a single differentiated cell. Then, step 2, a bunch of those specialized cells group together to form a tissue, like muscle tissue. Step 3, those tissues combine to make organs, like your heart or full organ systems. And ultimately, step 4, all those systems work together to build and support the whole, amazingly complex, multicellular organism, meaning you and me. I actually love this quote because it hits the nail right on the head. Nature is the ultimate master engineer. By creating this division of labor across all these specialized tissues and organs, the entire organism thrives. The overarching theme of biology, from the tiniest bacterial plasmid to the biggest blue whale in the ocean, is always that structure intimately matches function. I want to leave you with one final kind of mind-blowing thought. We've established that differentiation gives cells their highly specialized, locked-in roles. But as we look toward the future of medicine, what happens when doctors fully figure out how to harness undifferentiated stem cells? Imagine taking cells that haven't even picked their job yet and using them to grow brand new tissues, treat paralysis, or repair failing organs. Understanding this basic toolkit of cell specialization today is literally the key to unlocking the medical miracles of tomorrow. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep wondering, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.